As Cantor was illustrating for us so beautifully as he does with his song, this is Shabbat Nachmu, our Shabbat of comfort. Last week was Shabbat Chazon, this week Shabbat Nachmu. This intermediate time between these 2 weeks is an important pivot point for us in our Jewish calendar. So comfort, the idea of comfort, what a great idea. Who's going to argue with the idea of comfort? This is something that we can get behind. It's a tougher sell, especially in the summertime, to have the 3 weeks which are between 17th of Tammuz and Tisha B'Av, where we abstain from celebration. We don't really feel like doing that over the summer in this country, especially. Summer's a time to go on vacation and stuff like that. So it's a tougher sell to abstain from celebration during these 3 weeks. But once we arrive at Shabbat Nachmu, our Shabbat of comfort, who doesn't want comfort? Who doesn't need comfort? There's a strong connection between comfort and love. Last week we looked at the Haftarah of vision for Shabbat Chazon. This week we're going to look a little bit at our Haftarah of comfort. Nachmu, Nachmu, Ami. Verse 1 of chapter 40 of Isaiah, Nachmu, Nachmu, Ami, Yomar Elohechem. Comfort, O comfort my people, says your God. The very next verse, speak tenderly to Jerusalem and declare to her that her term of service is over, that her iniquity is expiated, for she has received at the hand of God double for all her sins. Now these 2 verses, there's lots of scholarly analysis on this, and I wanted to bring, I don't know, I was kind of like in a show and tell mood this morning, so I wanted to bring the JPS Haftarah commentary. There are selections from this in our Eitz Chaim, and so when we get into the scholarly analysis on this, we get into, in these verses, verse 1, verse 2, who is speaking, who is listening, or is it just the God and the people Israel, there are angels involved, or what's going on in this, and that's a very compelling scholarly analysis. But for me, at least this year, the emotional analysis is even more compelling. So we have this poetry in the first verse, set to music, as we heard so beautifully this morning. And in the second verse, we have these ideas of tender speech, of the idea of the problems are over, you're forgiven, and your punishment was harsh. It was hard what you went through. And for me, this verse, this is love. And this term came to mind. It's a little bit of a technical term for those of us that work with other human beings quite a bit, this idea of unconditional positive regard, unconditional positive regard. It's a little bit of a technical term, but when we say it, what we're getting at the idea of love no matter what, love no matter what. And this is what we want in our relationships. This is what we strive for, from parent to child and from child to parent, romantic partners, friendships. This is what we want most deeply, but it's aspirational. As humans, we struggle to be loving and upset at the same time. I was doing some reading online thinking about these ideas, and I heard this, and I saw this story that I very much related to, and I imagine that many of us can as well. A woman was writing about she was having a lovely romantic weekend with her partner and this and that, and it's so lovely and it's so great, and lovely conversation. And then she realized that her partner had rearranged all of the dishes in the dishwasher because she did it wrong, and so like he was fixing it, you know? And so it was like, oh man, now I went from like feeling so happy about all this to like, why did you have to, how could someone put the dishes in the dishwasher wrong, you know? And so this is exactly grasps that tension of when we get to this like love no matter what place, there's always gonna be something pulling us back to like the wait, things aren't quite right place. Feeling upset and feeling guilty can feel so bad. You know, even with the whole dishwasher situation where it's really no one's fault about the dishwasher, but when you've done something wrong, when you've lied and you've gotten caught, it feels terrible. And all we want is for things to be okay again. That's why the first 2 lines of our Haftarah, for me this year, are so compelling. We need forgiveness so we can have love. And all right, now this brings me to this is one of my favorite books ever. It's called Seasons of Our Joy. I'm sure I've talked about it a lot of times already, but I love it. It's about the Jewish calendar, and it's about the flow and the logic. And sometime I'll go on a quick digression here and say that it has this like a diagram for illustrating the cycle of the Jewish year, and I'm like, oh, this is brilliant. But I want to focus this on today on the flow and the logic of the Jewish calendar for from 1 week ago to about 1 week from now. So we have Shabbat Chazon, which we talked about last week, this holiday, this special Shabbat that focuses on the idea of moving from wrongdoing to future teshuvah. okay, you've made mistakes, but we have this idea of teshuvah, of repentance, of repair. We can right our wrongs, we can make up for our mistakes, and it's going to be fine. And that's the vision that we get a little taste of before Tisha B'Av, where the holiday of our sadness, the consequences of our wrongdoing, and so many verses from the book of Lamentations, the book of Eicha, which we read here in our community on the Erev Tisha B'Av, that one of the themes of the book of Eicha is that there's no comfort, that the city of Jerusalem had no comfort, that the people of Israel had no comfort. And that's the deepest darkness that we have. Now today, Shabbat Nachmu, comfort arrives. Forgiveness is possible. Things were bad, but it's going to be okay because we can come to love again through the process of forgiveness. And speaking of love, coming up very soon is Tu B'Av, also known as Jewish Valentine's Day, an ancient and modern Jewish holiday of love. And that's coming up Monday night into Tuesday. So this is all actually building towards Yom Kippur. Tisha B'Av and Tu B'Av hint at this quite directly, and so we're going to get into a little of those details. So Tisha B'Av, this holiday that we observed just earlier this week, a 24-plus hour fast, no eating, no drinking, we don't wear leather shoes. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel describes this fast in contrast to the fast of Yom Kippur, saying that the fast of Tisha B'Av is the fast of despair. Who is so sad, who can bear to eat? And the Yom Kippur fast is the fast of joy. It's so happy that who needs to eat? Which I think is a really beautiful contrast. So from Tisha B'Av to Yom Kippur, we build from sadness towards joy and celebration. Now thinking about Tu B'Av, this special holiday coming up Monday night into Tuesday, this idea of our day of love, we get this from the Mishnah, from Masechet Ta'anit, chapter 4, verse 8, if you want to look it up. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel said there were no days as joyous for the Jewish people as Tu B'Av, the 15th of Av, and Yom Kippur. Okay, so the 15th of Av and Yom Kippur, these 2 days that are similar, and they're similar because they're days of great joy. As on them, this is what would happen, the daughters of Jerusalem would go out into the fields in white clothes and dance in the vineyards and say, Bachur sana enecha ure'e ma taborer lach. They would say, young men, lift up your eyes and see whom you choose for yourselves. And everyone would quote verses from Eshet Chayil, this beautiful poem that we say on Shabbat evenings at home, and it was all very lovely. And so this would happen twice a year, on Tu B'Av, and again on Yom Kippur. So I think this is a powerful connection between these ideas of love and forgiveness, and that feeling of comfort that bridges forgiveness and love. This is a great season in the Jewish year. This moment is a wonderful time in the Jewish year, and we're right in this amazing and beautiful moment in our season building up towards our high holidays. And we can even see this in our Adat Shalom community calendar, which I think is so beautiful. Yesterday we had an amazing Shabarbecue dinner preceded by our wonderful service in Newmark Hall. Tomorrow we have our summer concert, and we are done with the 3 weeks, as I've been referring to it very colloquially, the no fun zone, the time when it's not appropriate to have community celebrations. We're done with that, and this is a huge weekend of celebration. Let's notice it. Let's not miss it and let it pass us by. This Shabbat, our Shabbat of comfort, Monday night into Tuesday night, right as our summer concert ends, it's the beginning of our day of love, one of the 2 most joyous days on the Jewish calendar. And so here's what we should do. Take the rest of this Shabbat and be in that space of comfort. Comfort other people, allow yourself to be comforted, do things that feel comforting. And then tomorrow, come to the summer concert and celebrate. Not just our community, not just our wonderful performer who we'll have, but also Erev Tu B'Av. We'll take this moment of Tu B'Av to kick off a personal season of joy. Take a moment, sometime, Sunday night to Monday sundown, to connect to joy and to think of this same joy that you'll feel on Yom Kippur. Connect your experience on Tu B'Av to your experience looking ahead to Yom Kippur. And finally, in our own relationships, and this is an important ask even though it's a tough one, let's remember this connection between comfort, forgiveness, and love. We all want to give and receive that no matter what love, that unconditional positive regard. But we can't do it all the time. It's really aspirational. Forgiveness is what allows us to move in that direction. Let's aspire to forgive, and let's aspire to be forgiven so that we may find comfort, so that we may connect to love. Shabbat Shalom.